Then it's Cox and Chris Lea about to dig in the crate. So turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. Yeah, we do it for the culture, home of the greats. In the Carolina hood from the culture state. Chris Lea and then it's Cox about to dig in the crate. So turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. Yeah.
Let's be completely transparent. Yep. This episode was already recorded.
Oh, yeah.
And then news happened. And the episode that we recorded became obsolete. So we had to re-record the episode. Of course, you guys may have already know this unless you're under a rock, but Carolina Panthers have fired their head coach, Matt Rhule.
Wait, what?
And so we're reacting to it.
When did this happen, Chris?
It happened Monday. After we recorded our podcast, we were talking about it. Which is hilarious, by the way. But we want to make sure we don't have like an outdated episode for you guys. So we're working hard for you. So coming up later on in the episode, we'll be joined by WXII sports anchor Johnson, who actually was playing on a college baseball team and went through a coaching change in the middle of the season. So he's talking to us what that perspective is like as a player on a team with a new coach mid-season. So just to talk about what some of the Panthers players are going through. But first, let's talk about this firing, man. You say that it was right on time. I feel like that David Tepper could have waited a little bit, but we could go a little bit further in on that.
So, yeah, I come from the standpoint of you could have fired him after his second year. I think that easily could have been justified because they didn't really get better from year one to year two. Now, you can say, okay, pandemic year one, totally get that. Okay, give him year three. Nothing was getting better. So if you're going to make the move, just go ahead and make the move. You know, you got the cloud over your head of, all right, this is going to happen. Why don't you just go ahead and get it over with? That's my standpoint. Just go ahead and move on. Start the moving forward process now. Don't wait for it. And then you can also, we can get into this a little bit of how that can potentially benefit the organization long-term now, because let's say, for example, in 2023, Panthers only have 4 draft picks. Do you want to start selling off players to acquire picks because you've already mismanaged your picks to try and get a quarterback? You've given up a full draft class worth of picks to get one, and that quarterback's probably not even on your roster. So
that's a whole nother conversation.
Exactly. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But I think by making this move now, you can start that process now, because teams might look at McCaffrey or Shaq Thompson and say, they could help us now. What can we do to get them? So I think that starts the process already. And I think it also allows Scott Fitterer or whomever is making the head coaching decision to really, truly start evaluating other coaches around the league, coordinators or other people that are head coaches that might have contracts coming up. You can start looking around now. Just go ahead. If you're going to do it, just get it done with.
Under normal circumstances, I would definitely agree with you. If you know it's going to happen, get it over with. But the reason why I feel the way that I feel is because David Tepper has only had this team under his ownership, under his guidance for 4 years. Yeah. And after he fired Ron Rivera, and he brought in Matt Rhule, it was David Tepper that was preaching to the media and to the Charlotte area patience. He said Rome wasn't built in a day. He said those exact words. He also said that Matt Rhule is a program builder. He was saying that, everywhere he's been, if you give him 3 years, it's gotten better after that. And he said sometimes you just need to give somebody time and let it all work out. Patience is the key. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe you're going to be patient, give this guy 3 years to see what happens. Even before this year, the messages coming out of, now he wasn't, interviewed and directly about this, but all the messages coming out about David Tepper was always saying patience. We got to have some patience. And now he's shown he's not that patient of a guy. He will get rid of you if he doesn't like you. Teddy Bridgewater, apparently he didn't like that. So he got him out of there after only 1 year, which also started that avalanche of the problems that the Carolina Panthers have right now when it comes down to their picks. We could talk about that later. He also wasn't patient enough with Ron Rivera, Marty Herney, which we get it, but now you're about to have your third head coach in less than 4 years. You're about to have potentially another GM, because if you listen to the press conference from Monday, when somebody asked, hey, is Scott Fitterer going to be around for next year? He said it's premature to talk about that. What? All you had to say is, yeah, that's our GM. We're going to move forward. Yeah. Now you've put the doubt in our head that you're probably going to fire Scott Fitterer as well. So where's this patience you've been talking about? We didn't have patience when you were building everything in Rock Hill, South Carolina, because when things didn't go your way, you pulled out. $800 million project down the drain immediately. All those jobs, everything, all that was going to help out the area. It's done. So, Tepper, where's your patience? And when we're thinking about how the Carolina Panthers are going to look good for any other potential head coach in the future, somebody that may have choices like, I have my choice between the Steelers, the Texans, have my choice between the Carolina Panthers, and let's name another bad team, the Washington Commanders. But you know what? David Tepper's been doing this. I don't know if I like that. I'll take my chances, and I'll go with the Texans. Okay, you know what I'm saying? This makes them look horrible right now.
Okay, yeah, the Texans who are fired a head coach after 1 year and now have Lovie Smith, who they might just fire again after 1 year. So, I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. And Steelers Tomlin ain't going anywhere. But yeah, or the Commanders, you want to work under Dan Snyder and the proven track record that he has. Here's the thing.
But what does everybody have in common now that we're talking about it?
They all
stink.
This
bad ownership.
Well, exactly. Well, here's the thing. Generally, the teams that are looking for head coaches aren't good teams. Like, you don't just generally walk into a good position. The exception might be Mike McDaniel there in Miami.
I don't know. That was a bad situation too to me, because like they were trying to be underhanded and sneaky with my man
with Brian
Flores, well, being underhanded and sneaky with trying to set up that meeting with Tom Brady, and then also he took him to the playoffs for the first time in however long. It's the first time they had back-to-back winning seasons in 20 years, and they fired him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's weird.
My point is like, you inherited a winning team. That's my saying being the exception. You inherited a winning team. Generally, again, new head coaches or teams that are looking for head coaches have bad teams or potentially bad ownership.
It did feel like when we were listening to David Tepper, he made it seem like, okay, all right, I went out on a limb, I tried to hit a home run, but let me do what's normal. Let me hire from some type of NFL coaching tree and do somebody who has NFL coaching experience. Let me give them a regular 3 or 4 year contract. I'm not going to give somebody a 7-year, $62 million thing, even though he can pay for it. He could write one check and just Matt Rhule could be done. Mm-hmm. He understands his mistakes, and I think it shows his personality as a hedge fund manager, right? Like, he's known for bringing in 42%, returns for his investors, which is a huge return. Like, if you get 10% a year on your investments in the stock market, that's great. David Tepper is known for having 42% returns, which is why he's a billionaire, and he's treating this like a trade. He's looking at it. He went big on it. He put all his chips in, and he was like, you know what? I'm losing a little bit, but I got my stop loss down here. I'm losing a little bit. Okay, I'm getting too close to my stop loss. I'm cutting the trade. And it just showed that he didn't do his due diligence getting into this trade or getting into this particular, transaction, because how many times do we see a college coach come into the NFL and do amazing?
But it's interesting how you bring up Tepper in his press conference on Monday did say, hey, I'm learning this on the fly. Yeah. Like I'm learning how to be an owner on basically doing it on the job, which I was like, that's actually a pretty decent amount of self-awareness from him, even though he did claim that he brought music to Charlotte in concerts.
Charlotte had no music before David Tepper came to Charlotte.
There's no restaurants. This place
no restaurants.
Dump.
I will say this too. He was technically correct in saying that there was never back-to-back winning seasons, but don't discount that 2013 to 15 stretch where even though they went 7-9 one year, they still went to the playoffs, and they still won the NFC South 3 years in a row, which that had never happened before the Carolina Panthers had done that. Yeah. So the NFC South was always one. Teams were taking turns. Nobody dominated. And the Panthers dominated during that stretch. So he needs to be careful the way he words things, because he's trying to make it seem like to people who are from North Carolina, like, hey, I brought all this here. Whoa, slow your roll, buddy.
No. Yeah, that's the thing. There's a stretch, I want to say, from like 2013 to 2017, about a 5-year stretch where I think the Panthers had the second or third most wins in the NFC.
Yeah.
Like, people, so it's like, oh, you brought winning here? No. Since you've gotten here, it's been the complete opposite. So you don't say, like, you brought anything here. No, because there was a winning tradition for a stretch that was here before you showed up.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we have that clear. So I don't know. It's just part of it was like there's a couple things, but again, he talked about patience and some stuff like that. But then the whole thing of like, oh yeah, I brought all this to Charlotte, like revitalizing the city. Is like, dude, you sound like a politician from The Wire, you know, like trying to spin everything like, oh, look all the great stuff I've done, when really stuff was already there before you even got there. So I don't know. It just kind of came across as a little bit as pompous, in my opinion, and especially the way he answered some of the questions. It kind of did.
When you have $16 billion, man, I guess you could do that. But also when somebody's asking you a question and you're like, the answer is in your column. Look at your column. I read your columns. The answer's in your column.
Oh, okay, so you're telling me I'm right? Okay. Like that's
so remember I told you that my live story, we could bring it up here at the end of this podcast, but my story about David Tepper from the Cardinals game, told you this guy's a little insecure, and that came out Monday. We're going to have John Johnson join us right after this break. He's going to tell us his perspective from playing Division III baseball, what it was like going through a coaching change in the middle of the season. That's next on the Culture State Podcast. All right, so we have to talk a little bit more about this Matt Rhule situation, but in a different form. And to help us do that, I've asked my good friend from WXII 12 News, one of the best stations in the nation, just to be honest. John Johnson, he's joining us. He's one of the sports anchors there. So John played baseball in college.
Yep.
He was a player on a team as his team was going through a coaching change. And so that's one of the things I was kind of wondering about, like from a player perspective, what is it like being on a team that's changed coaches mid-season? And you've actually gone through it, John. So first off, I want to get a whole breakdown of what exactly happened, and then we're going to try to see if we can empathize with these Panthers players. So you're playing in your senior year, baseball at Union College in New York. Your coach is out. What's the situation around it? What happened?
All right. Well, first, fellas, thanks for having me. So this would be back in 2010. Our head coach at the time was Dave D'Agostino. That name is going to be infamous in that Schenectady, upstate Union College area. Anyway, it was an up and down kind of season. So we're about midway through the year, and we had a Sunday fun day. You know, most of the games we play are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we'll play in the middle of the week on a Wednesday. So we had a Sunday fun day after our doubleheader game. All the players getting together. We had like a team meeting because we were scuffling a bit, brought a lot of the young kids in with us because some of us upperclassmen were hearing some rumors that the coaching staff was trying to divide the upper class from the younger class. And we had gotten some wind that Dave was kind of burying some of the upperclassmen, talking bad about us. So us captains kind of held a meeting together, brought everybody in, and kind of wanted to get to the bottom of it and be like, hey, look, younger guys, we're here for you. You're going to run this program after we're long gone. We want to make sure things are right. Well, we find out that, that all of the things that we had been hearing was true. He was more or less dividing the locker room and pitting the younger class against the upperclassmen. So we go to practice on a Tuesday, and now the parents have gotten involved because, we've kind of let it be known, like, this is what's going on. We've been reaching out to the athletic director, like, we need to have meetings. So Tuesday practice comes, and he kicks a couple players off the field for practice, upperclassmen. So we already know what's going on.
Were you a part of that?
I actually was not one of those that was kicked off.
Okay.
I played enough politics, I guess, to stick around. But I knew I was one of the group that he was saying, or part of the group of upperclassmen that he was like, don't hang out with. But the younger classmen, for the most part, liked hanging around me. Whatever. So one of the kids that got kicked off, I'll leave his name out, went to the athletic director and brought it up. So we're getting set for a Wednesday game. So we all get to the locker room probably around like 2:00. We get on the bus. Usually coaches are already there in the locker room. Nobody's there. We get on the team bus, wait 30 minutes. We see an assistant coach come up, get in his car, and leave. Doesn't say anything to us. No other. The head coach still not there. Dave's not there. An hour goes by, and we're sitting on the bus, and we're now starting to hear rumors that, like, he's not coming.
Oh, wow.
So I send out a text to our outfield coach. He doesn't respond.
Huh.
So I'm like, what is going on?
happening?
Yeah, exactly. What is going on? Finally, probably about like I said, an hour and a half goes by. The athletic director comes, gets on the bus, and he goes, hey, look, just to give you guys a heads up, Dave has decided to quit. He's decided to step down. This is right as we're about to leave. Like, we are playing today, and he walks out. And so he goes, I asked the assistant coaches to stay, but they decided to stay loyal to Dave. They will not be here. So we're trying to find you a coach for today's game, or we can forfeit. Now we're like mixed at this point. We're pissed that they left us, right?
Yeah.
We're really annoyed that they left us like that out to dry, but we're also kind of glad that Dave's gone because we didn't like him. So we decide as the players, we're like, you know what we're going to do? We'll play. If you get us somebody to hold it down the fort for us, we're playing. We're getting on this bus and going. So my running back coach at the time used to be the former head baseball coach at Union College, Gary Reynolds, G-Man, one of the best dudes on earth. He volunteers to be like, you know what? I'll come back, be the caretaker until we get a full-time coach here. So G-Man, they call G-Man up. Obviously, he's not on campus. He decides he's going to shoot over. Problem is, since G-Man is not on the actual roster as a listed coach, he can't be in the dugout. So we're like, what are we going to do? So we just decided we'll manage the game.
Send signals like the Astros.
Yeah, we're going to bang on trash cans and whatnot in the dugout. Yeah, exactly. So we decide we'll manage the game with G-Man there. G's just got to be in the building as the head coach. So he can basically take out the lineup card, but he can't sit in the dugout. So we get on the bus, we drive up, and I want to say we were playing Utica College. Can't remember, but that's irrelevant at the time. We get there, G sits behind the fence. We win both games of the doubleheader we played that day. Both games. It was one of those things, and it was such a great bus ride back home. G-Man drove, he didn't get on the bus with us, but we just drove back. It was just the boys. I pulled myself out of the lineup for game one to manage with one of our other pitchers and shortstops, Andy Brown. We co-managed that game with G, and then we player managed game two. Yeah, we won both games, got on the bus, and headed back. And on the way back, I got a text message from the outfield coach. He's like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I hope I can stick around this year. I made the wrong decision. I thought I should be loyal to Dave. And we were just like not having it. We were like, he left us out to dry just like he did. And there was some other stuff going on. We firmly believe that D'Agostino was like, hey, look, you got to stay loyal to me. Like, or, some other stuff's going to come out about you guys. But like, he was skimming money off of our road trip funds is what we were.
Really?
So like we get, when you go on long road trips, you get like $20 for meals. And we didn't feel like we were getting the full $20 to go get something to eat. He would either buy like a couple pizzas, and we know that wasn't $20 for a whole baseball team there per person. There was like some fundraiser stuff that, parents helped raise or donate that didn't get sent to raffle ticket winners that went missing, including a big screen TV.
So question, after that, like who was named, was somebody named the full-time head coach after that?
So G-Man stuck around. After that day, they were able to get the paperwork submitted. He ended up taking over for the time being as interim. And then he brought in an assistant coach, Paul Mound, who wanted the job a couple years ago or a couple years prior before D'Agostino got it. Paul Mound's now the new head coach over at Union. And he's been awesome. Took him to the NCAA playoffs. Like, he was a great guy. Should have gotten the job the first time around. Nice. We all loved him. But the school had some quirky rules. I'm not going to throw my school under the bus, that he just wasn't exactly qualified. He wasn't qualified, I guess, in their minds at the time. He got those taken care of because he wanted that job so badly. And he felt bad for us that he volunteered on his own time. So, yeah, G-Man filled in, was interim. Paul Mound came in as his assistant, and then Paul brought his son along, and now Paul's running the program.
So in the middle of all of that, and you're going through a change in basically how practice is being ran as well. What are those little differences like?
Practice was totally different. It was more loose. We treated Paul and G-Man treated us like we were professionals at that point. He was like, "Look, you're playing college baseball. You know the nitty gritty. We're playing every day anyway. Let's keep it light. We'll do our basic work in. For us, it was hits, fundamentals, get your reps in, and then get off the field. We're playing so much, so you don't need to be there, 4 hours. Whereas D'Agostino, it felt like it was smothering you. He wanted to say it was being professional, but at the same time, he was extremely nitpicky all over the field. He never yelled at anybody, never corrected anything, but it just felt like you were being judged every second of your existence on that field.
Oh, you're going to go with that swing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. It'd be like, I told you to hit it the other way, but you just hit a home run. I didn't ask for that. Like, it'd be like just small things. And even the way he did rotations, some guys were getting less reps, and that happens just because of the timing of things. Some guys will get some less reps, but with G and Paul, it just seemed to even out, and they kind of were just like, "Guys, do your thing."
It's interesting to kind of hearing this from a player's perspective in that case. I know it's kind of a rare instance, but we thank you for sharing your story, my man. Like, learned something new about you right there. And I'm glad you're able to kind of give us some perspective on what it would probably be like for the Panthers. I know that Kenny Beck was telling me he went through a coaching change at Maryland between seasons when he was playing baseball. But I'm sure that's a lot different. You have a whole, off season to get used to the new guy. Like this one, you guys are in the middle of it. You have games coming up, and you got to get used to the new guy and then also try to win games at the same time. So gives us a little bit of perspective on the outside of what maybe the Panthers players are potentially going through. So we appreciate your story, man.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good times.
All right, we want to thank John Johnson for joining us, bringing us that perspective on what it was like. So now, where do the Carolina Panthers go from here? Steve Wilks is the man at the helm. We know that he didn't get a full shake over at the Arizona Cardinals. Gave him just only 1 year with Josh Rosen. Got rid of him. Got rid of Josh Rosen. Brought in Cliff Kingsbury. Brought in Kyler Murray, and they've been patient with him. So we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of people who've been saying that the Panthers probably need to start trading some assets.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Dennis?
If you're trying to rebuild from your rebuild, is what you're doing, because that's what, when you brought in Rhule, that was the whole thing. All right, we're rebuilding this thing. Well, now you're rebuilding off of your rebuild. Well, you only have 4 draft picks because they've mismanaged draft picks trying to acquire guys that we can win right now, like from C.J. Henderson and Stephon Gilmore, and all that mess came from Mayfield, Darnold. You spent so many draft picks. Like, for example, you spent about a total of 7 or 8 draft picks to get Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Matt Corral, to get those 3 guys in. And all 3 of those guys may not even be on your roster in 2023. I think Corral might be just because he's a rookie or on a rookie deal, but still, neither of those guys are going to be a starter. You spent a full draft class in one position, so you need to reacquire picks. Well, who's out there that can help teams right now? Christian McCaffrey. Love that guy. Love watching him play. But every snap that he takes, his value goes down. So who can go out there? Like, does Buffalo want to go out and get him? Maybe the Baltimore Ravens? I don't know who, but he's easily a trade piece.
The Broncos.
You might have to retain some salary, but someone you can trade. But there are definitely players who are untouchable on that roster, for sure. But it's going to be interesting to see. we are now at a point for people who cover the Panthers and as Panthers fans where it's like, all right, we are now looking ahead because we have no choice. Like, you already did the move of getting rid of Matt Rhule. Everything's now looking ahead to the future.
So for people who missed it on Culture State Saturday, I gave a story about, I wouldn't call it an interaction or a run-in with David Tepper.
It was more like a stare down. It was a
20-yard stare down.
It was a backstage wrestling stare down. Like, that's what it was. Like, what are you looking at me for? Yeah. Oh, that's what it was.
I was talking to a good friend of mine. His name is Catman Jr., Greg Good Jr. Just to give a quick, brief history, Catman, the original Catman, had been to every single Carolina Panthers game from preseason to Clemson, when they played at Clemson for those years, to Bank of America Stadium, up until he died right before the 2019 season. And his son, Greg Good Jr., Catman Jr., took over for him. I broke the story that his dad died at WXII 12 News, had the exclusive story with Greg Good Jr., Catman Jr., who's going to take over for his dad to carry on that tradition. Anyway, I make it a point every time I go to a Panthers game to go speak to Catman Jr. And so I'm going to speak to Catman. He's one of the famous Panthers fans, been on commercials and all that good stuff. And Nicole Tepper, David Tepper's wife, walks up to him and starts talking. She's greeting the fans that she knows and the people, she's being a good host. And they start talking pretty much while I was talking with him. And then Greg is like, hey, could you take a picture of us, me and Nicole? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I take his phone. I back up. He's in the stands. Nicole's against the wall. And then he's kind of bending down doing his, Catman thing. And I'm taking a picture from a low angle. Boom, boom, boom. Look at it. You guys good with that? All right, sounds good. And Nicole's like, all right, cool, thanks. Little tap on the shoulder. Cool. Like, all right, good to meet you, that type of thing. I turn around, I look, and David Tepper is looking like this. Sunglasses, hat, everything. Hands on his hips.
Or the
just
sunglasses
staring me down.
Like, just you could see, like, the pupils of his eyes directly over the top of the
I couldn't see it, but I could tell he was kind of a little looking, over him just a little bit.
Okay. All right. Good. That's
but just staring me down. Yes. And I was just kind of like, let me get back in my phone and go ahead and start posting stuff again. It was weird. It was like, bro, what is happening there? Now,
what are we doing?
Maybe he was looking at me. Maybe he was looking at Nicole, but he was looking in that direction. And it was something that he felt like staring down, but it was like there was really no interaction between me and her. It was mostly just like, took the picture for everybody, and, she was like, okay, cool, thank you, quick, arm tap type of thing. And David Tepper just gave me the stare down. Have you ever been stared down like that by a billionaire who's worth $16 billion? It's kind of scary because he has the money to erase my life.
He does. And as I said on Saturday, he has the ability to buy Capital Broadcasting and just shut this whole thing down if he wants to, just to make sure that you don't have a job.
Yeah.
I mean, he could do that. I mean, I hope he doesn't, because I enjoy doing what we do. And I also love having a job. So, perks to that. But I could see it. I could see it happening, Chris. No, I've never had a billionaire stare me down before, at least not that I know of.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have happened.
Yeah. It's a different experience, man. But hey, hey, David, I'm a great Carolina Panthers fan. Keep pounding. Love what you're doing in Charlotte, buddy. Keep pounding. Love ya.
All right.
We're going to keep it at that.
Yeah, we're keeping it at that. Check us out at The Fan Rookie. That's me, Chris Lea, at Chris Lea TV. You can also follow us at Culture State Pod. Also, make sure you subscribe to 99.9 The Fan's YouTube page or YouTube channel. Say there's a playlist of just me and Chris and all, not just podcasts, cuts from our live Saturday show, which you can listen to 10 to noon on The Fan and WREL Sports Fan and WREL Sports Plus TV. So you can do that. There's also some original content out there too.
Dennis Cox and Chris Lea about to dig in the crate, so turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. Yeah, we do it for the culture, home of the greats, in the Carolina hood from the culture state. Chris Lea and Dennis Cox about to dig in the crate, so turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. Yeah.